you can figure it out yourself. I mean, I just look at it and I can tell you what I think they're going to do, what they would do with it. Now, it's not a mystery what's going on. The best thing I can say about it is we know. You already know what the economy is going to do in America. The main thing is that people often say, well, how can you plan, how can you predict what's going to happen with things? You know what Bob Chapman does? He looks at many things that exist in the world that are going on, and he looks at history and of course what he knows, and he can probably predict and try to, and also in his informants, the people who tell him things, puts this all together and he can try to predict what's going to happen. Okay? And I'm looking at this and I can kind of say, I'm not an expert, but I can look at this and say, this is what I think is happening to the United States. We can see where it's going, just like Gerald Celente says, current events form future trends. Current events create future trends. You know, how things are going to go. A trend is like something that goes on for a longer period of time than just, a short period of time. We know that as of right now, America will gradually lose more jobs. We also know that people going to college are going to have less those jobs available that they're hoping to get. Supposedly, I've read something recently. Some people have YouTube videos on this, I think, too. 85% of college grads move back into their parents' house after graduation. I'm thinking, like, why in the hell would you go to school then for 4 years or whatever it is? It would be better for them. I mean, yes, in America you have assistance. The government, the state of Michigan, for example, has a thing called a scholarship, which pays for part of the schooling free. And the federal government has a thing called a grant, which pays for some of the school free. So they're not paying for the whole thing when they go there, for the tuition and everything. But still, they're still paying something. I'm thinking, like, why doesn't this is the way if I was going to do the school thing, with what I know, looking at it, this is what I would recommend. I mean, at least for me, I would teach myself the material and then go there and take tests. And if I pass, then I'm considered to have completed the course. And I would just work somewhere too, and have a plan for what I'm going to own for my property and where I'm going to live, and try to work on paying that off. Get the land, or find a cheap foreclosed property or something, so that you can, some place where you want to be. Don't get something that's very expensive. Just get something that that you can acquire eventually, and then you don't got to worry about it. Because a lot of people don't realize that. I spoke to somebody back in 2002 or 2003, and I told him, he worked at GM, I think it was, and I was saying, GM, these companies are going to be hit. And this one guy, he actually got a kind of like antagonistic towards me. He's like, GM, no, they're doing great. They're selling over 1 million something vehicles a year. Well, in America, if I'm correct, they're selling probably around 1/3 that now. And they actually went bankrupt. The government would have had to bail them out, or it sounds like to me they would have went out of business. And I told this guy, and another guy I also spoke to with about the same time period, if not the same day. He goes, "Is this really going to happen?" He was actually, I said, "Look where it's going," because he also, I think, worked at GM or Chrysler, and I said, "This is where, I told him that, I didn't know everything back then, but I said, what you got to do is make sure your bills are paid off. Watch it. You maybe even move up. I think I even said maybe move someplace where maybe out in the country, or whatever, so you can grow your own food or something, because it looks like it's gonna get a lot worse." I don't know what he did, but he listened and he thought about it, and hopefully he didn't lose his job and lose his house and everything else. But anyway, in time, all it is, guys, all it really is from what I see is you got a number of guys who have influence. They know how to influence. These guys on the, the top of the food chain or whatever, they have the connections. They know how to influence societies and governments and people, and they have gotten control of certain things like this, and they go ahead and do it. They know that they keep people on the oil mainly because it's a method of control. In many ways it is. They keep people, they control the governments because they know they can manipulate things a lot that way. They also can control their militaries. They manipulate the currencies, different types of money. They control the media to a great degree. They tell you, it just goes, I mean, it's probably kind of a game to them. How can we keep these people for their whole lives, from cradle to grave, just an ignorant, stupid roach? They sit back, and that's why they kind of, I guess, consider themselves, some people might call them the elite, because they have the bigger sphere of understanding of everything, and they have the positions of power, and they can have greater influence and all this kind of stuff over the average guy. And I mean, they control the great degree, it looks like, the United States Congress. They control the vice president and president. They control, it seems like, a lot of the judicial system in the United States now, at least the federal, the Supreme Court. They've got a bunch of, they just say we can do whatever we want to a certain degree with the Constitution as long as we can get away with it. They're killing the U.S. dollar. I'd say within a year or so, possibly the silver's going to be at least probably around $45 an ounce. Probably maybe even more, maybe 60. I don't expect necessarily that the dollar will be dead by 2012. So that was the plan. Plans change. I don't think they're going to probably do that. But that's what I say right now. Person has to look at it and say, what do you think is going to happen? A person's going to look at this and say, what is going to happen with what they know? And as time changes, and see, I don't have a lot of information that comes to me that I can really work with. I have to obtain it, and just like you guys, most of you guys probably have to obtain it from people that various sources through the news. The media is their mouthpiece. You know what I mean? Hollywood is their perversion. Bob Chapman fills us in. Lindsey Williams has contacts who fill us in. Bob Chapman, I think, has certain contacts. Gerald Slente has his insight, and he also studies the wider view of things. And there are many other people who have insight in certain things, even though they might not have the bigger picture. It's kind of interesting. They don't believe certain things, but they do. They don't really go along with the control by the New World Order necessarily, but they do provide an insight on a specific area, which is useful to have. I think, by the way, if we recover this planet from this kind of stuff and we get through this without having a major nuclear war, even if we have a major nuclear war, I think this planet is going in the direction, if it makes it through and people are alive, and enough people are alive, and there's people who still build things and stuff like that, and knowledge is around, information is around, that I think we're going to eventually start going. Our next step is to go into outer space. I don't think it's that necessarily that far off. So anyway, that's my many topics covering video. I'm tired as hell. So you have a good one. Thought you might want to, for those who want some more different viewpoints, here's some for you. Have a good one.